Hey everybody, Mark B. Dub with Gardening Gone Wild. Welcome back to the greenhouse. I'm actually not in the greenhouse today, I'm in my garden and I'm ready to pick some tomatoes, some peppers and different things so that we can make salsa. I'm going to show you how to make the best recipe for salsa anywhere. Coming up on Gardening Gone Wild. Hey everybody, welcome back. Mark B. Dub here with Gardening Gone Wild. Hey, today we're going to pick some tomatoes and peppers here in my garden because we're going to make salsa. I'm going to show you step by step how to make that salsa and all the ingredients that you need to put into your salsa. So come on, let's go into the garden and we'll pick some tomatoes. I've got a nice little array of tomatoes here that I like to pick. You're going to need about 12 cups of tomatoes in your salsa in this recipe that I'm going to show you how to make. So come on out to your garden, pick your tomatoes. Make sure that they're nice, dark red tomatoes. You don't want something that's like this. This is not really going to be easy to work with because you're going to want to peel the skins for the salsa. And so what I like to do is I like to pick tomatoes that are nice and dark red, okay? And I've got plenty here, so we will make our way down through the tomato patch. Now, typically what I like to do with my tomatoes is I like to trellis them. But they got away from me a little bit this year. I didn't have a chance to trellis them, and so I'm just doing the best I can with what I've got here. And then we're going to go inside. I'm going to show you how to skin them. And not like skinning a cat, it's totally different. They say there's 12 ways that you can skin a cat. So, all right. Let's see, we got a couple more tomatoes right in here. I'm going to pick these guys. I'm fortunate today to have a helper filming me pick things, so I'm really grateful for that. So just follow me down here, we'll pick a few more tomatoes. A lot of the tomatoes that I'm growing here in the garden are Park's Whoppers. I like Park's Whoppers because it's a big, juicy tomato, low in acid, and so it's not too bad. And it makes for a great salsa. If you're going to do spaghetti sauce, then it makes also a great spaghetti sauce, okay? All right, you got that? Looks pretty good. I think we've got about 12 cups there. So let's take these, let's head back into the kitchen and we'll get started with chopping and cutting. All right, welcome into the kitchen. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take and show you around the kitchen some of the things that you'll need to have to make your salsa. And so let's start with this one right here, okay? This one right here is our pans. Now, you definitely want to have some pans to be able to boil your hot water. I like to take and boil enough hot water that I can put it in my sink right over here, where I'm going to put my tomatoes just right down in the sink, and then I'll dump the hot water on the tomatoes and let them start blanching so that the skins of the tomatoes come off a lot easier. And you'll let that sit in the water for about 15 to 20 minutes, drain the hot water, and then you'll pour some cold water on it, and that will help those tomato skins to come off a lot easier. Have a bowl for your skins and your other items that you're not going to use. And then I'll also use a nice measuring bowl that I've got up here somewhere in the cupboard that I use to help me measure how many cups I'm going to have to put into my salsa. I've got a nice little cutting mat here. I've got a nice little cutting mat over here where I'm going to cut some onions and peppers and garlic and some other things I'm going to throw in the salsa. I do want to use some Roma tomatoes. I didn't pick any Romas out in my garden, but I did get some from another garden that I'm going to use. I like to use the Romas because it helps to thicken the salsa up a little bit. I'm not much of a runny salsa lover. And of course all the different tomatoes that we picked out in the garden. My Park's Whoppers, and this one right here is called the Yellow Mission. It's an heirloom tomato that I love to throw in there because it gives a little bit extra orange or a little different contrasting color to make it nice. and then some extra bowls so that you can put different things like your chopped onions and your chopped peppers and things like that in. And then of course the most important thing are the bottles, the jars. You need to have those just the same. Measuring spoons, you'll need a can opener, you'll need knives, and you'll need lots of time because this process is going to take us about 2 hours. Of course I won't make you watch the whole thing for 2 hours, but we'll break it up, mix in different things so that it cuts it way down, but you'll get the gist of what we're doing here, okay? All right, let's get started. So what I'm going to do is I've actually got some water that was pre-boiled, but I had to turn it off because it was getting a little too messy for me on the stove, so I turned it back on. So as soon as that gets done, then what I'll do is I'm going to take that hot water, I'm going to bring it over here to the sink, and I'm going to put my tomatoes in there so that they can start blanching while I go over and show you how to cut some peppers and onions and things like that, okay? All right. Okay guys, hey, here we are with tomatoes in the sink. A question that I want to answer is how many tomatoes makes 12 cups? Well, I like to use about 20 Roma tomatoes in my salsa. Okay, these are the Roma tomatoes. And then just your regular tomatoes like this. Aren't those nice looking Parks Whopper tomatoes? Those are awesome. I just love them. And I use about 15 of those regular juicy tomatoes. Now that I've got my tomatoes in my sink, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my hot water because it's definitely boiling. Please be careful when you work with hot water because you know hot water, boiling water is hot boiling water. Okay, so we'll take this and we'll come over here carefully, and without splashing too much up onto yourself or if somebody's helping you, you want to make sure you get you a nice little hot pad so that you don't put your hot pan on your nice countertops there so it cools down. And I'm going to get this other pan of hot water and I'm going to take and pour it over the top of those tomatoes as well, okay? All right. Now you want to make sure that when you pour the hot water in here that there's enough water that it's going to allow all the tomatoes to be covered up or to be floating in. Otherwise they're not going to blanch properly, and so you want to have it look about like that right there. In fact, I can already see some that are blanching down there in the bottom. A couple of pointers. Back up a little bit. Let's talk about some PPE. What on earth is PPE? Personal protective equipment. You know, a lot of times you hear about that on the job, a construction site or in a lab or something like this. I've got some nice gloves here so that when I start working with my hot peppers, this is going to help protect my hands from getting the hot pepper juice and the seeds into the pores because, oh, I'll tell you something, the last thing you want is to have your hands burning. Then make sure you don't want to itch your eyes, itch your nose, your ears, and things like that. So you want to have gloves that you can use that's going to help protect you from when you cut your hot peppers, okay? The gloves that I recommend for the tomatoes, because it's hot water. Obviously it's not going to completely get all the heat out of it, but I like these gloves right here because they go clear up my arm and help protect splashing any water on them. But it also allows me a little thickness in the material. These are rubber gloves that I like because it helps me to be able to grab a tomato, be able to skin it, and I'll show you the process of cutting the core out of it, okay? So hey, what kind of peppers am I going to use here today? I've got some Ancho Grandes. Now these look a little different than some of your Ancho Grandes. A lot of them turn black. I got these just a little greener. I do have some red ones that I like to use. Again, I like a whole bunch of color in my salsa because it just adds a little pizzazz when you're dipping that chip in there and you got all this cool stuff in there. But I like the Ancho Grandes, or Poblanos as they're called. I also like to use the Anaheim pepper. Red ones, green ones. Now, know that red is the actual ripe color of a pepper. So if you have Anaheim, or you have an Ancho Grande or Poblano, that's going to be the finish red color of that pepper. Same thing with your green peppers. I've got some green peppers here that I like. They're California Wonders. I've got a red one, and then I've got the rest of them are green. I also like to use a pepper that's called an orange blaze. Now, don't let the blaze fool you that it's going to be hot, because it's not. It's a very sweet pepper. But again, I like the color, orange. And then another pepper I like to use is the Santa Fe Grande. Now, I used to put jalapenos in my first batch of salsa that I made recently, and I just didn't get the sweet taste that I wanted with the hot. And so a friend of mine told me to, hey, use Santa Fe Grandes. They're a little sweeter. They've still got the punch of heat that a jalapeno has. So let's cut these up, and I'll show you what I like to do to cut these up, okay? So here we go. So I like to cut right down the middle and just kind of pry these open, and then I'm going to take and peel all the seeds out of there, because this is where the heat is in your salsa. A lot of times it are the seeds from the peppers, okay? And so we'll set that one aside. We'll do another one right here. Careful not to cut yourselves, right? You get a serrated knife, they can do some damage to you real quick. Okay, just pretty much like that. That's about all you got to do. If you want to leave a few seeds in there for a little heat, go ahead and do that. You see how I'm just peeling all these out here like that right there. Now I can get an Anaheim pepper and do the same thing to that. Cut that stem off and just come all the way down and just cut that pepper. Open it up, get most of the seeds. Most of your seeds are going to be right by the stem of the pepper. So it makes it a lot nicer to be able to clean out. Do an ancho grande that way. We'll cut the stem off like that, and we'll put that there. We'll kind of open this up. This is kind of a twisty one there, but you kind of see that how I'm going to just pull these dudes out, these seeds. Okay, just like that right there. Okay, we'll take that. Now we've got a nice bell pepper here. Just cut that stem completely off. Now I gotta go a little deep. Well, let's go like this, okay? Let's cut this around here like this. Then I can basically just pull that whole thing out. Isn't that cool? Pull that whole thing out. We can still cut that down a little bit. All right. So what I'm gonna do now is I've got my scrap bowl. I'm gonna throw these dudes out in the compost pile a little later on. Notice how all the seeds I've got that I pulled out. I definitely don't want to have those in my salsa, so I'm just going to pour all that right here in my bowl, my scrap bowl that I have over here by me. Okay, now let's take a moment and I'm going to show you kind of what I like to do as far as cutting. You can sit here and just slice them like this right here with my serrated knife. I always like to serrate it because it gives me a nice quick cut. This process of this recipe that I'm showing you takes about 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours, okay? Because you've got to chop all your onions, you've got to chop all your tomatoes or your peppers, and then you've got other things that you've got to chop up as well. So as we chop this, remember, try not to cut your gloves and cut a hole in it, because that juice will leak right through your gloves and get onto your skin and you'll be burning up, okay? So let's show you how to fine-tune chop those. I like to use this knife right here. This is a nice little chopping knife here, and what I like to do is just kind of take it and just go like this right here. I like to have not fine bits, and I like to have not coarse pieces in my salsa, but I like to chop it up enough that you have a little chunkiness, because I'm a chunky kind of salsa eater. I don't like just a bunch of liquid in there, okay? And you just kind of go over it 3 or 4 or 5 times, whatever you think you need to get it to the texture, the consistency that you like. Granted, you might have a piece or two that might slip through the cracks here, if you want to call it that, to get into your salsa, but that's kind of the texture I like right there, okay? So when I cut my peppers, for my hot peppers, it calls for 1.5 cups, but I actually like to use 2 cups of hot peppers, and that includes my Anaheims, it includes my Santa Fe Grandes, my Poblanos, Ancho Grandes, and so that's kind of what I like to do. got those tomatoes blanching. Make sure you get those tomatoes blanching while you're doing a lot of your prep work, your cutting of your peppers and your onions, and there'll be garlic that you'll put in there. In fact, I'll show you the recipe down below, the description of the video, so that you guys can see what I put in there, and then an explanation of everything, how long to cook this or that, or where to put this, where to put that, and so forth. Okay. Then we're going to take this right here, and we're just going to kind of, again, just kind of hold that like that. These are pretty much all of my hot peppers that I want in there. My Santa Fe Grandes, my Ancho Grandes, the Poblano. I do have the green peppers, the bell peppers that I like to throw in there, the orange blaze, and the California Wonder. Okay, so there's my hot peppers. Here's my measuring cup. I want to get 2 cups. I pre-chopped my onions yesterday. I usually put them in the freezer just to kind of preserve them a little bit instead of taking up space in the fridge. And what'll be nice with this is I'll be able to take this bowl of onions and just be able to plop it in the big pan where I'm cooking everything. You got your nice yellow onion. Sometimes I like white onions in there. They're not as pungent as the yellow onions, but again, it's all preference, okay? So here's my onions, here's my garlic, I've got my peppers. I've pre-chopped a bunch of peppers so that we could rush through this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take and peel my tomatoes. I won't bore you to tears with peeling all the tomatoes either, because it takes quite a time to peel about 12 cups of tomatoes. So I'm just going to show you the process and how that's done. We'll get them all dumped in the pan. We'll turn it on and get everything cooking, because it takes about an hour and 45 minutes to cook all this. Later down the road, we're going to add some tomato paste, some cilantro. We'll add some dried chopped onions in the mix as well, and a few other things. So let's get on to the tomatoes. I said that you probably want to have gloves on. These gloves right here are awesome, like I was showing you. Let's see how I can get these things on, because sometimes they're a little tough to get on. But I like just to help to shield my hands from all the acid in the tomatoes and getting in my pores and stuff. So I put these babies on here, and then it kind of covers my arms just the same. Okay, all right, now I'm going to get my serrated knife here. I'm going to clean that baby off. Now I'm going to start cutting tomatoes. Okay, what I like to do is take that and peel that whole thing off. I don't like to have any skin in there. I'm going to take and cut the core out with my knife, just like that right there. Pull that baby out, put it over my bowl right there. And then the Romas are pretty cool, because they'll just take and peel right off with that hot water, blanching it. Like I said, I like to put about 15 Romas in my salsa, and that gives me a little bit more of a pasty, thick texture to it. As I'm cooking a lot of the water out for that hour and 45 minutes, that helps to get rid of a lot of the water as well that's in your tomatoes. But just take these dudes and peel all the skin off, and take your knife, and careful that you don't cut yourself or your gloves. Make sure all the skins are off, and then go to town. A lot of times when you cut the core out like this, that just basically starts peeling off for you. Sometimes you got to cut a little bit of it off there, because part of a tomato might not be as ripe, and so it makes it kind of tough to do that right there, like that. Peel it off. That looks nice. Doesn't that look nice? Get that in there. Cut this. this 8 cups of right here. We're going to dump it in this big old cooking pan right here. Okay, that's 8 cups right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my stove on, and I'm going to turn it on to 3. Any higher, you'll scorch the bottom of your pan, and then you'll scorch your tomatoes, and you don't want any scorched tomatoes, okay? And then we'll come back over here and finish peeling it and then putting it in the bowl, okay? All right, so I'm going to finish cutting these last 4 cups. Give you a little eye view of the bowl there that I'm putting the tomatoes in. I've got my gloves off. Now I'm going to take this nice bowl of 4 more cups of tomatoes, and I'm going to dump them in here in my pan, okay? I'll take this over here. We'll take and dump all the onions in there, okay? There's some onions. Put those in there like that. Get the hot peppers right here. Here's some hot peppers. Yaha! It's always nice to have a little spatula handy. I might be a little overprotective, but I want to just be safe. Those hot peppers are unforgiving, and they just don't seem to want to help. I know that was just 1 cup of my green peppers. I know I've got my pre-chopped green peppers here somewhere. All right, everybody. Hey, listen. Now it's time to put a few more ingredients into our big pan, and what I want to do is just run over those ingredients and let you know when we put them in and when we wait to put them in, because there's. If you look down here on the counter, I've got 2 cans of tomato paste here that I put in there, but it's towards the end. We cook it for an hour on simmer on 3, and then we drop it down to low, and then that's when I put the tomato paste in there, and I cook it for 45 minutes from that time on. Okay, I'll also put my limes in there at that time, along with my onion flakes. The cilantro I put in now. I've got 3/4 of a cup of white vinegar, a tablespoon of black pepper, a teaspoon of garlic salt, and then 3 teaspoons of non-iodized salt. Okay, that's the good stuff to use. So let's go ahead and take and put our salt and our garlic powder in there. Okay, garlic salt, garlic powder, it's all the same. Put those in there. I'm going to take and put my cilantro in there as well. And then I'm going to put my black pepper in there, okay? And my 3/4 a cup of white vinegar. But back to the cilantro, I was never really a fan of that. And then after I started making this recipe of salsa, I decided, hey, having cilantro in there doesn't make it taste too bad, okay? All right. Get you a nice heavy-duty spoon, okay? And we'll stir that up and let that cook. I will take and turn my timer on the stove right here, and I'm going to put it to 1 hour and 45 minutes. How's the progress going? I guess it's going pretty good. Gonna open the lid here, and we're gonna pipe down there to let you take a look at that. What do you think? Whoa. What do you think of that? Good looking stuff down in there. While all this yummy salsa is cooking and simmering for the next 45 minutes, you want to get a small pan, like a saucepan like this right here, and you want to be able to get all your lids for your bottles, because after all, we're doing a hot bath with this salsa. We're cooking it, we're hot bathing it, and sealing the jars so we can put it in our food storage. Okay, and another thing I wanted to mention was when you stir your salsa, get a tomato masher or smasher or whatever you want to call it, I use this one. It allows me to be able to get into the pan and then just kind of smash the bigger chunks of tomatoes around. Be careful not to splash that on your pan because that is very, very, very hot. But you want to make sure that you kind of smash all the tomatoes to a certain consistency so you don't have really big chunks of tomatoes in your salsa. So I do that during the next 45 minutes to get that to break down. And then what I do is I turn this down, the stove over here down to low, and then I let that simmer for 45 minutes. And then we'll be ready to bottle. Another thing that you can do is you can get your bottles ready. Okay, I'm gonna have to have a lot more bottles than this right here, but I'm using some quarts this time. Normally I put them in pints because sometimes we don't go through it as fast as we used to, and it's also nice to give away as gifts when you feel like you've got a good neighbor. So, okay, we'll come back to the final stage of making this salsa. All right, guys, last three things we could put in here. Here are the dried minced onions. We're gonna dump that in there. We've got our 2 cans of tomato paste, and we're gonna just see if that plops out. I put a little hole in the bottom. Somebody told me that it would actually come out on its own, which it looks like it's going to. Beautiful. Stir this up really nice, and then let it simmer. We've got 40 more minutes. We'll simmer it. We'll smash it some more to make the chunks of tomatoes just a little smaller, and then we'll come back. Hey everyone. Hey, let's show you now what we're going to do is we're going to take the salsa, and we're actually going to transfer it down to the bottles. Unfortunately, I had a little audio problems with my recording, and so I'm having to do a little voiceover for you, but nonetheless, we'll make sure that you get all the instructions on how to put it in the bottles, okay? So, while you were cooking the salsa, you definitely wanted to make sure that you got your bottles ready, got your lids put in the pan boiling so it helps to soften the seal, so that when you put those lids on the jars and then you put your rings on there, it's going to help to seal better. So I've got my jars there, I've got my rings right there that you see, and then there's a little apparatus I'm going to show you here in just a second that I like to use. It's kind of a siphon or a funnel, not a siphon but a funnel, and you'll use that to put your salsa into your jars. So the thing you want to make sure you do with your hot bath is make sure it gets steamy. You've got a couple of little holes on each side of the pan lid up there on the top that once that starts steaming, you're going to pull the lid off, and then you can put your jars into that hot water. It's boiling, and then you'll want to put your lid back onto your hot water bath, and take and turn off your stove over there where your lids are boiling in that small saucepan, and then you're going to be able to take it over to the counter and get that ready so that when you start transferring or filling your jars with the salsa, then you're going to be able to have your lids there with your rings. So again, I've got this guy right here, this little red thing. I call that a not a siphon, but a funnel. It's a little bigger than most funnels, but that's something that you use in canning to fit down inside the jar, whether it's a regular mouth or a large mouth, wide mouth. And it helps to eliminate a lot of mess while you're scooping the salsa or spaghetti sauce, whatever you're doing, and it fits right on top of the jar just like this. So you want to take and make sure that you don't get the salsa all over the place. All right, I use this 1 cup measuring cup to scoop the salsa out of my big pan. I like to stir it just a little bit before I start dumping it into my funnel, into my jar. It usually takes, on a pint, it usually takes about 2 cups to fill that pint jar. And what you want to make sure you don't do is fill it too full. I recommend that you take and fill it right up to where the bevel, where the jar bevels up to where the threads are for your ring. And that way you'll make sure that you don't fill it too full, because it's got to be able to have a room to cook inside there, to bubble just a little bit while it's in the hot bath. So we've got pints, I've got quart jars that I'm filling. I'm actually able to get about 8 pints out of this and about 4 quarts. So see right there that you're going to be getting a lot of salsa. And again, the reason why I use pints is because I like to give them away as gifts. Now, you make sure that your rings are not too tight. When you screw that on there on top of the lid, you don't want to screw it too tight, because you want that to be able to expand and contract when it gets hot, expand and then contract when it cools down. And that's what actually allows the sealing motion or activity on your lid there to make sure that your jar seals, so that you can store it down in your food storage or in a closet or in a pantry or something like that. So now remember, that's hot water, boiling hot water. Your pan is hot, so always be aware of kids if they happen to run in and out of the kitchen while you're canning. You definitely don't want them to grab a hold of that nice big hot pan and burn their hands. So you fit a pint jar in the middle, and then you do 7 all the way around it. So you can actually fit 8 pints in that hot bath, okay? And so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make sure that we've got our 8 pints to fill and then put into the pan. Bring your lids over in your saucepan. Now, I've got a cool little magnet that I use. A friend of mine gave it to me. He used it for his cows to help pull away any barbed wire or nails or anything that somehow they might have eaten, and it gets into their stomach and then it gets drawn to their heart, so that magnet would actually pull it away, so it would help save their lives. But it's nice to have that little magnet to grab a hold of the lids in that boiling hot water that I just pulled one out of. I know they make a little device that you can use to magnetize those lids. So remember, when you're pouring the salsa into your jars, whether it's the quart or the pint, make sure you don't fill it too full. All right, guys, hey, it's time to take out our salsa from the hot bath. We got the 8 pints. So what you want to do is you want to be very careful, because there's a lot of hot steam in here. You want to make sure when you lift this up that you lift it straight up, and then allow that to kind of let the water drain off of it. And then you kind of put that right there. I always like to put my hot pads on there just to remind me that that's hot. And then I'm going to get my little bottle remover, this little contraption right here, and I'm able to wrap that around each one, and I'm bringing it over here to my towel, where the bottles will actually cool and most definitely seal. Okay? Nice little batch of salsa. Okay? Did you hear that? You might have heard a little click. That sounds like that one of them is sealed already. So you look on there, and we've got 2, 4, 6, 8 nice little pints. Now another couple of glasses of water to fill your hot bath pan up so that you cook it right, so you don't run out of water and then you burn up your pan, and then your whole process is just kind of got shot. So let's fill that up with water, and I'll show you kind of where you want to fill it to when you put that in the hot bath, okay? Now if you notice, I've got the rack in here inside the pan, and that's where I put my jars on. You want to make sure that the water is just above that rack so that your bottles sit into that water. Now I'm going to put the lid back on. Now remember, the pan's kind of hot, that's why I put those hot pads on there. You put that on there, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it build up steam and build up the boiling process. When it comes out of this little hole right here, that means that it's ready to put the jars in, and then I'll put the timer on for 25 minutes on quart jars. 25 minutes on quart jars. On pints they tell you 20 minutes is sufficient. So what do you think? You think you can do it? I do. Now it may seem like a lot of work. You know, you're chopping your onions, chopping your peppers, you're blanching your 12 cups of tomatoes, you're chopping all kinds of stuff, okay? But guess what? When you pull one of those jars out after it sits on your shelf down in your food storage room in about a week or two, maybe a month or whatever, or even just crack one open tonight after you finish, get a bag of chips, guess what? It's all going to be worth it. I'm Marky Dub with Gardening Gone Wild. Thanks for joining me this time in the kitchen. Next time, we're going to take a little tour of the garden and show you what we're going to do to clean things up. So until next time, I'm Mark V. Dub, Gardening Gone Wild. Have a great time and enjoy your salsa. Hope you start filming. It only lasts for about 12 minutes, and then it'll say, all of a sudden say it's shut off. Okay. So you see the little red dot up there, that means it's filming, okay? Yeah. So you don't have to be in it at all.
How?
So this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to introduce myself, okay? And then I'll turn the camera over to you.
What am I looking here?
You're looking in through here. So we can turn this completely around.
Thank you.
So that, well, right now I need to see me up in there.
Okay.
But when it's time for you, then you can go like this, and then you can be just shining down on just coming like this with me. And then if you look in here, you see how there's some kind of like, looks like red edges? Here's your focus right here. So when you're out of focus, there's no red edges. When you have focus, total focus, there's your red edges. And so just kind of, you want red edges, yep. So that's what you get, okay? And I'm actually on, I'm live mic, so it's on, it's recording. So what I'll do is I'll just, hey everybody, Marky Dub, Gardening Gone Wild, welcome back to the greenhouse.
While you do that, instead of filming yourself?
You could just sit here like this, okay?
Where are you going to be?
I'll just stand right there in the garden, just right there in the archway, if you want. It's already started. See your red dot? It's already going, you're already running.
Okay.
So if you want to back up, I'm right here into the, right there. Okay, come over here. Well,
You back up.
okay, you ready? Okay. Hey everybody. Okay, then that'll cut. And that's just my intro. And then I do my little intro that Amur did for me, and then I'll go back into. You're gonna have to come around here and film me because my hand's right here is blocking the whole view. So you'll just have to come around here and just do the best you can to film me. I'll put all this back here. Okay. Okay. Yeah. All right. So here's my garlic. I like to put about 5 to 7 cloves of garlic in there. It actually calls for 5, but hey, why not just put a little extra in there to make it taste nice and garlicky. After all, garlic's a pretty good little medicine for you to have in your system. My dad always used to tell me if I would suck on a garlic clove a day that